The devotional today will be led by Reverend Joe Welker of the East Craftsbury Presbyterian Church.
Good morning. It is an honor to be with you this morning from indeed East Craftsbury Presbyterian Church. My name is Joe Welker. I am a pastor there. I confess I don't know much about most of you, except that you hold a seat in the smallest state capital in one of the smallest but most beautiful states in our great country. You don't know much about me, except that I hold a seat up in an even smaller building, an even smaller town, one of the smallest states in the country. In receiving the honor of an invite to speak with you this morning, they sent me a lot of rules around what clergy are allowed to say up here, which limits some of what I can talk about. But I also know that my grandfather would say, every rule has a story. So I thank the clergy who came before me for gifting us the stories, these rules around what I can say. My grandfather was Colonel Joe Welker, and part of his story was serving under and loving Major James just down the hall. There's another proverb about stories that say, before you change the rule, know the story as to why it was made. So I don't know much about any of your stories. I do know that you are tasked with setting lots of rules. And even though we don't know each other's stories fully, that brought us to this room at 10 a.m. in Vermont, we do know that each of us is holding not just our stories of so many people in our hands. And so as you proceed forward in your work, I ask that you don't forget all the stories of people that you carry with you. I ask that you be open to hearing new stories that challenge the stories you're familiar with. Whether we're in a seat, or we're up in the gallery, or we have a fancy cloth around our head, we've all been gifted the power and the burden to shape each other's stories, not only in Vermont, but remember that you did not write your own story, but you have been born into an even greater love story since the dawn of creation. John Donne said that no man is an island. This is even truer on small, beautiful, landlocked seas. May your rules honor all of our stories. Thank you.
Members, will you please rise as Page Alex Youngspringer of Burlington leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Members, we have two House bills for introduction today. The first is House Bill 512, which is an act relating to the regulation of event ticketing market introduced by Representative Harrison and others. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
H512, an act relating to the regulation of the event ticketing market.
This time it is referred to the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development. The second is House Bill 513, which is an act relating to the Southeast State Correctional Facility natural areas introduced by Representatives Bartholomew of Heartland and Burroughs of West Windsor. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
H513, an act relating to the Southeast State Correctional Facility natural areas.
This time and is referred to the Committee on Corrections and Institutions. We have two bills on our calendar today that require referral to a money committee pursuant to House Rule 35A. The first is House Bill 86, which is an act relating to establishing the chloride contamination reduction program at the Agency of Natural Resources. Hearing an appropriation, the bill is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. The The second is House Bill 504, which is an act relating to approval of amendments to the charter of the city of Rutland, materially affecting the revenue of a municipality. The bill is referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. Members, we have received 3 requests to read House concurrent resolutions that the House and Senate adopted pursuant to the consent calendar. The first is HCR 86, which is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the 2025 Montpelier High School Silence Division II Girls Nordic Championship Ski Team. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas the winter of 2025 proved propitious for the Solon's girls Nordic skiers as they dashed and glided their way to glory. And whereas this confident and skilled contingent of snowy trail enthusiasts was exceptionally well prepared, having earned second place in each of the prior 2 years. And whereas the 2-day skiing competition consisted of the first day's freestyle runs held in Craftsbury and the concluding day's classical racing at Prospect Mountain, at which Montpelier emerged as the day's winner. And whereas when all the scores were tallied, the Solons had clinched the 2025 Nordic skiing title, and the delighted Montpelier skiers were Phoebe Bakeman, Sarah Seligman McGill, Anna Nuara, Adele Pritchard, Claire Pritchard, Miriam Sarata Winston, Marie Voisin, and Anna Wetherill. And whereas head coach Brian Carlson and assistant coaches Jason Sarota Winston and Hugh Pritchard were proud of the team. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the 2025 Montpelier High School Solons Division II Girls Nordic Championship Ski Team, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to Montpelier High School.
Next is HCR 87, which is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the Montpelier High School Solons boys basketball program on winning a 5th consecutive Division II championship. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas during the 2024-2025 regular season, the first-seeded Solons and the third-seeded Harwood Highlanders had 2 encounters in which Montpelier strongly outscored Harwood, and the highly experienced Solons team was determined to repeat those earlier on-court performances at the Division II championship contest played at the Barry Auditorium. And whereas the game proved to be a spirited hoop encounter, and as at halftime, the 40-30 Montpelier lead was not insurmountable. And whereas recognizing the Highlanders' perseverance, the Solons accelerated their 4th quarter drive, outscoring Harwood 19-10, ensuring a final 68-57 victory and achieving a consecutive year boys basketball championship record not seen in Vermont high school competition in over 3 decades. And whereas the victorious Solons were Caden Anderson Hall, Cleo Bridge, Carter Bruzy, Carson Cody, Clayton Foster, Caden Halley, Winter Holloway, Weston Jones, Atif Melak, Orion Nuss, Joseph Narengabo, Stone Poor, Colby Sterling Proul, Elides Tolman Greenberg, and Alex Weinstein. And whereas head coach Nick Foster and assistant coaches Bill Bruzy, Ryan Booth, and Anthony Roberts inspired the team throughout the 2024-2025 basketball season. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the Montpelier High School Solons boys basketball program on winning a 5th consecutive Division II championship. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to Montpelier High School.
And finally, HCR 109 is a House concurrent resolution congratulating the South Burlington chapter of Rotary International on 40 years of exemplary community service and professional camaraderie. Please listen to the reading of the resolution.
Whereas on February 23rd, 1905, Chicago attorney Paul Harris established the world's first Rotary Club, consisting of members from different professional and business backgrounds who gathered to exchange ideas and form meaningful lifelong friendships. And whereas the organization quickly expanded around the globe, and within 16 years, there were Rotary clubs on 6 continents. And whereas the fundamental goal of all Rotary clubs is to promote the 5 avenues of service: club service, vocational service, community service, international service, and new generation service. And whereas Rotary International's Strong Vermont Connection dates from 1923 in the South Burlington Rotary Club, for which Rotary International issued a charter on October 28th, 1985, has been a stellar organizational contributor. And whereas over the past 4 decades, the South Burlington Rotary Club has not only exemplified the highest ideals of Rotary International, making significant financial donations to laudable local initiatives, but equally has contributed hands-on people power to support the success of community service projects that have improved life in South Burlington. And whereas among the community achievements in which the South Burlington Rotary Club has participated are the completion of improvements to the band shell at Veterans Memorial Park, the acquisition of an all-electric delivery and pickup van for the South Burlington Food Shelf, and the installation of benches along recreation paths. And they assist with school literacy projects, support scouting programs, host and send students who are studying on international and academic exchanges, and much more. And whereas the South Burlington Rotary Club is proudly commemorating 40 years of selfless good deeds and looks forward to active Rotary service for many years into the future. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives that the General Assembly congratulates the South Burlington chapter of Rotary International on 40 years of exemplary community service and professional camaraderie. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be directed to send a copy of this resolution to the South Burlington Rotary Club.
Are there any announcements? Member from South Burlington.
Madam Speaker, the South Burlington Rotary Club has provided funds to countless community building and support projects since its inception, from benches on which friends sit together and talk to the iconic band shell at Dorset Park, to multi-year funding of the beautiful City Center Library and City's Food Shelf. South Burlington Rotarians, like their millions of counterparts across the globe, show up with tools, expertise, and faith in the good of humanity to work with communities to visibly improve people's lives. Several members are here and seated in the gallery. Please help me welcome them to the Vermont House of Representatives.
Will the guest of the member from South Burlington please rise and be recognized? Member from Essex.
Madam Speaker, on behalf of the members from Burlington, South Burlington, and myself, I am delighted to welcome a group of 4th and 5th grade students from Schoolhouse in South Burlington who are seated in the balcony today. These bright students have been learning about how government works and are here today to see democracy in action and are eager to observe how our decisions shape the future of Vermont. They represent the communities of Essex, Essex Junction, Heinsberg, Burlington, South Burlington, Shelburne, Winooski, and Charlotte. They are accompanied by their amazing teachers, Jeb Brady, who was also my daughter's teacher 10 years ago, and Barry Slightly, and parent volunteers Mark Hughes, James and Raquel Plouffe, James Goodwin, Kirk Montague, and Mike Golia. Please give them a warm welcome.
Will the guest of the member from Essex please rise and be recognized? Member from Montpelier.
Madam Speaker, this morning we heard resolutions honoring the grit, determination, athleticism, and teamwork for Montpelier High School's girls Nordic and boys basketball teams. Please help me extend a warm welcome to the athletes, coaches, school officials, and family members with us today from our Montpelier Roxbury community.
Will the guest of the member from Montpelier please rise and be recognized? Member from Newport City.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to bring attention to today's devotional, which was presented by the Reverend Joe Welker. Reverend Welker was called to serve the East Craftsbury Presbyterian Church in August of 2023. He is a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and Harvard Divinity School. Before he journeyed and was called to the East Craftsbury Church to become the pastor there, Joe spent many years working in the Los Angeles entertainment industry. Madam Speaker, I would request that members please join me in welcoming to the People's House my friend and pastor, Reverend Joe Welker.
Will the guest of the member from Newport City please rise and be recognized? Member from Cambridge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Tomorrow is Wednesday, and the Rural Caucus will be meeting from 8 to 8:45 in room 10 and on Zoom. We'll be hearing an overview on S-127 relating to housing, as well as an update on USDA funding. All are welcome.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, orders of the day. Members, we'll start with House Bill 364, which is an act relating to approval of the annexation of property by the Village of Swanton. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
H 364, an act relating to approval of the annexation of property by the Village of Swanton.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill. Up next is Senate Bill 36, which is an act relating to the Medicaid payment model for residential substance use disorder treatment services. Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
S36, an act relating to the Medicaid payment model for residential substance use disorder treatment services.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence with proposal of amendment? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed the bill in concurrence with proposal of amendment. Members, now will take up Senate Bill 50, which is an act relating to increasing the size of solar net metering projects that qualify for expedited registration. The bill was referred to the Committee on Energy and Digital Infrastructure, which recommends that the House propose to the Senate that the bill be amended as printed in today's calendar. The member from Manchester, Representative James, will speak for the committee. Please listen to the second reading of the bill.
S50, an act relating to increasing the size of solar net metering projects that qualify for expedited registration.
Member for Manchester.
Madam Speaker, S50 is a narrowly crafted bill. It deals with small solar arrays that Vermonters choose to install on their own property. You can find the bill printed in today's House calendar, beginning on page 1728 for members who'd like to follow along. Across Vermont, all solar arrays must be approved by the Public Utility Commission before construction. For larger arrays, this is a lengthy and sometimes expensive public process that can last anywhere from a few months to a year or more. For smaller arrays, the kind you see on a neighbor's rooftop or in a backyard, there's a much simpler, faster registration process that takes a few weeks. With this expedited process, the solar installer, working with the homeowner, submits the paperwork to the Public Utility Commission. The PUC notifies the utility company, and the utility has 10 days to review the project and decide whether to approve it. If the utility signs off, the PUC issues what's called a certificate of public good, basically a permit. The fast registration process has a 15 kilowatt cap. This cap was established in 2014 when solar panels were about half as efficient as they are today. With a modern solar panel, you can now fit a 25 kilowatt ground-mounted array into about the same physical footprint as a 15 kilowatt array from a decade ago. As many homeowners continue to electrify, charging electric cars, adding cold climate heat pumps, they want a bit more power on site. S50 recognizes these trends by simply raising the fast registration cap for ground-mounted net metering projects, basically residential solar, from 15 kilowatts to 25 kilowatts. Vermonters who want to put solar on their property can now generate a bit more power in the same amount of space and keep it simple through expedited registration. You'll see this change throughout the bill. 25 is the new 15. as well as some new language to add a statewide minimum setback and eliminate redundant paperwork. Beyond these narrow updates, S50 doesn't change anything about how residential solar arrays are installed, approved, or handled in Vermont. At the end of the bill, we asked the PUC to take a look at how we define a larger solar array, in other words, a plant, in statute. So we're thinking here about larger commercial or utility scale arrays up to 5 megawatts and ranging in size from 6 to 30 acres. As our renewable energy laws have evolved, there's a concern that this old definition may limit our ability to build more solar in places where it already exists and to drive up the cost of doing that. So with that in mind, we asked the PUC to convene a group of stakeholders and take another look at the definition of plant in statute. They'll come back to the legislature in November with a recommendation that balances the land use benefits of putting new solar in places where solar already exists, like brownfields, gravel pits, or sites that are already disturbed. 2, the ability of the PUC to provide a comprehensive review of multiple projects that are being proposed for the same site. And 3, how co-locating projects on a single site could benefit ratepayers. As I mentioned at the outset, S50 is a narrow bill. It doesn't change much, but it does take a small step to ensure that our existing solar permitting process keeps pace with changing technology. So now I'll walk you through the bill. It is a strike all to the bill that the Senate sent over. Section 1 of S50 updates 30 VSA 8010. This is the existing statute adopted in 2014 that directed the PUC to adopt rules for Vermont's net metering program. For folks who aren't familiar, net metering gives a billing credit to the owners of solar projects that generate and share power with our grid. In my bill introduction, I mentioned that when homeowners want to put in a small solar array, they work with the installer to fill out the expedited registration paperwork. This includes a decision by the homeowner to either keep or give the utility company the Renewable Energy Credit, or REC. This is a certificate that represents the amount of renewable energy that a project is generating. A REC isn't of much use to a homeowner, so the vast majority of Vermonters assign their REC to the utility. This helps the utility meet its requirements under our renewable energy standard, and in exchange, the customer gets credit on their electric bill. On rare occasions, an installer might make a mistake with this paperwork. In the Senate version of the bill, customers, homeowners, could have changed this decision once at any time. In testimony, we learned this might make it harder for utilities to keep track of these important REC certificates. So with that in mind, we decided to allow customers to change their decision once, but only within 120 days after their home solar array goes online. So basically, you'd have a few months to look at your electric bill and make sure you're getting the proper credits. In subdivision F, we update the language from 15 to 25 kilowatts. And in subdivision G, you're going to see that same directive. In section 2, we direct the Public Utility Commission to update its rules to reflect this new language, again, only for ground-mounted arrays of 25 kilowatts or less. We also add that these solar systems can use this expedited process before the rules are updated, since the rulemaking process can take a while. In section 3, we changed the section of statute that sets out setback requirements for ground-mounted solar arrays. As you can see, these setbacks vary by the size of the array, with the bigger arrays requiring, logically, a bigger setback. We brought the numbers into an alignment with our new 25 is the new 15 language, and we added a new consistent statewide minimum setback of 10 feet for systems smaller than 25 kilowatts. And then in this case, we did change the Senate bill. In a floor amendment, the Senate had proposed that solar arrays would have to comply town by town with whatever local setbacks were in place. After conferring with the PUC, solar installers, and the League of Cities and Towns, we went with a simpler consensus approach. So we went with a uniform statewide minimum setback of 10 feet for arrays 25 kilowatts or less. That's how far they have to be set back from state or town highways and property boundaries. In Section 4, we eliminated some duplicative paperwork. Under current law, the certificate of public good, the permit, must be recorded in the land records of every municipality. That's a good thing. But then in an unnecessary second step, the installer also needed to submit proof to the PUC that the paperwork had been filed with the town. After testimony from the PUC, we deleted that second redundant requirement. And then in Section 5, as previously discussed, we asked the PUC to propose an updated definition of plant for the legislature to consider next year, and that was something we added to the Senate bill. And then you'll see the effective date of July 1, 2025. In working on the bill, we heard from Ledge Council, the sponsor of S50, the operations director, the legislative liaison, and a staff attorney from the Public Utility Commission, the executive director of Renewable Energy Vermont, a partner at Leonine Affairs on behalf of Green Mountain Power, the director of intergovernmental relations and the municipal policy and advocacy specialist at the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, the climate and energy program director at VPIRG, the general manager of the Village of Hyde Park, the co-founder of MHG Solar, the CEO of Power Guru, the director of sales and business development for Southern Vermont Solar, and the general manager of Catamount Solar. We also received some public comments that you can view on our committee page. S50 was unanimously recommended by your House Energy and Digital Infrastructure Committee on a vote of 9-0-0, and we hope our diligent tripartisan work will earn your support.
And now the member from Ferrisburg, Representative North, offers an amendment to the report of the Committee on Energy and Digital Infrastructure that the first assistant clerk emailed to members at 9:21 today. The amendment is also posted on the House Overview webpage, and paper copies are available at the main table. Member from Ferrisburg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My goal with this very simple amendment is to keep this important topic in front of us. The voters were very clear in November that they wanted the clean heat standard repealed. I offer this amendment as a floor amendment to this energy-related bill.
Member from Heartland, what is your point of order?
Madam Speaker, as you heard in the bill presentation, this bill is to increase the size of solar net metering projects that qualified for expedited review process, and as you also heard, is also very limited in scope. This proposed amendment significantly expands the purpose, scope, and object of the bill, and I do not believe it's germane.
Member from Heartland, I find your point of order well taken. Amendments must be germane to the underlying bill. Here, the underlying bill is about expedited registration for certain net metering systems. This amendment would repeal the clean heat standard, and therefore the amendment deals with a different topic and would change the purpose of the bill. So, member from Heartland, I find your point of order well taken because the amendment is not germane and therefore cannot be considered. So, members, the question is, shall the House propose to the Senate to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Energy and Digital Infrastructure? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have proposed to the Senate to amend the bill. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for that question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and third reading is ordered. Members, now we'll turn to House Bill 13, which is an act relating to Medicaid payment rates for home and community-based service providers. The bill passed the Senate with a proposal of amendment that is printed in today's calendar. Member from Wolcott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. H13 can be found on page 1732 of today's calendar and is a strike all. You might find it easier to view the changes on the Human Services page from Friday, April 25th, as they are highlighted in yellow. Let me run through them. First was in the definition section, subsection 7, to strike out home and. This is because Vermont Medicaid waiver has a specific definition of home and community-based, and they want the language used in this bill to be different, so there's no confusion, and it does not change the underlying definitions. Changes in 7C further define and clarifies what rate setting is looking at when they set the rates by excluding clinical residential settings, or nursing homes, and non-medical residential settings. In section 911, they changed determining payment rates to calculate payment rates, providing a more precise outcome when establishing the rates, what the rates would be. They go on to call out that the rate study is for informational purposes, further clarifying that it's a rate study and this study does not implement those rates. They further clarify factors that go into calculating the rates by changing adjust the rates to ensure that the calculation includes. 5D clarifies that the Secretary shall include a process for determining rates by adding of community-based services and changes extraordinary financial relief to provider stabilization as to not confuse with an existing definition used for nursing homes. 5E follows the determine to calculate, and the same holds true for section 3 and 4 of 8914. Section 5 changes the title of the bill by removing home and to align with the body of the bill. Again, the vote was 10-0-1. Thank you.
And for the Committee on Appropriations, member from Morristown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your House Appropriations Committee met, took testimony from our Legislative Council and our Joint Fiscal Office, and we determined that the proposed amendments from the Senate will not impact the appropriations of the state. We voted on a straw poll 10-0-1 to support the proposal, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
So the question is, shall the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have concurred in the Senate proposal of amendment. Up next is House Bill 206, which is an act relating to the Uniform Commercial Code. The bill passed the Senate with a proposal of amendment that is printed in today's calendar. Member from Starksboro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. H206, an act relating to the Uniform Commercial Code, was passed by the House to make a number of important updates and clarifications to the Uniform Commercial Code. The UCC is a fundamental law used to transact business in Vermont and across all of the states. House action on the bill can be found in the House Journal of March 14th, page 409. Madam Speaker, H206, as passed by the Senate, adopted all of the House bill, but proposes two minor clarifications found at page 1734 of today's House calendar. The first Senate proposal of amendment corrects a transitional provision of the bill so that, with some exceptions, controllable electronic records and secured transactions involving controlled electronic records entered into before July 1 of this year will be valid, notwithstanding the other amendments to the Uniform Commercial Code made by this legislation that will take effect on January 1st of this year. The second proposal of amendment clarifies that an unperfected but enforceable security interest in existence before July 1 of this year remains enforceable if it becomes enforceable under Section 9-203 of the UCC on or before the adjustment date of July 1, 2026. Madam Speaker, your House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development has reviewed the Senate proposals of amendment, heard from Legislative Council, and by a straw vote of 9-0-2 approved the proposals. Madam Speaker, your committee asks that the body concur in the Senate proposals of amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is, shall the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have concurred in the Senate proposal of amendment. Next is House Bill 398, which is an act relating to the Vermont Economic Development Authority. The bill passed the Senate with a proposal of amendment that is printed in today's calendar. Member from Whitingham.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. H398 is an act relating to the Vermont Economic Development Authority. It was passed by the House and it makes technical corrections to 10 VSA Chapter 12 to simplify the scope of VITA's work and to modernize the language in the statute. By the nature of how VITA works, or by the nature of how VITA has evolved, their statute has become less user-friendly over time, lacking clarity, making decision-making a challenge. This bill also establishes the Vermont Disaster Recovery Loan Program to help small businesses recover from both declared and undeclared disasters. The Senate has passed the bill with the following proposals of amendment, which can be found on page 1735 of today's calendar. In section 254, the Senate proposes to strike the word state from the section title and add the word authority for continuity with the previous section, which amended that title in the same manner to clarify that these projects are authority projects and not state projects. The Senate also proposes amending section 280GG pertaining to the establishment of the Vermont Disaster Recovery Loan Fund to allow for assistance to forestry businesses in addition to agricultural businesses. Our House bill called for VITA to consult with the Agency of Commerce and Community Development, as well as the Secretary of Agriculture, Food and Markets, in the case of a disaster event in an area of the state. The Senate proposes to change this language to specify that it's a non-declared disaster. The Senate also proposes to clarify that in the case of a non-declared disaster, VITA will also consult with the Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation, in addition to the ACCD and the Secretary of Agriculture, Food and Markets. Your House Committee on Commerce and Economic Development heard the amendment and concurred with the Senate with a vote of 10-0-1.
Now the member from Coventry, Representative Marcotte, and the member from Jericho, Representative Granning, offer a further amendment thereto that is printed in the calendar. Member from Coventry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On Friday in our House calendar, I was looking at S60. The proposal from the Senate was to create a grant fund to help ag and forestry businesses during times of a disaster. That's a great thing, small amount of funding. But when we were looking at the fund that we propose here in the VITA bill, was the BGAP fund. Again, small amount of money to create loans to help all businesses, including agriculture and forestry businesses during times of a disaster. So I think we want to make sure that all the businesses are able to access this small amount of funding. But if there are other funds that certain businesses are accessing during the same disaster, we should make sure that they can't access these limited funds that are for all businesses. So the amendment actually does that. And it's only for state funding. It's not for federal funding. It's not for private funding. It's only for state funding that they can access this low interest loan fund, or they could only access the grant funding that is proposed in S60. I think you will see when S60 comes to the floor that there will also be an amendment to that will also have similar language that those ag businesses, if they access the loan fund, they can't access this fund. So that, in essence, is the amendment. The committee heard the amendment this morning, and on a straw poll vote of 11-0, approved the amendment as favorable, and we ask for your support.
The member from Coventry and the member from Jericho move that the House concur in the Senate proposal of amendment with further amendment thereto. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have concurred in the Senate proposal of amendment with further amendment thereto. The final bill on our action calendar today is House Bill 463, which is an act relating to technical corrections for the 2025 legislative session. Member from Burlington.
Madam Speaker, thank you. We've been made aware that there might be another change necessary to the bill, so we would ask for one legislative day to make that correction.
The member from Burlington moves that we postpone action on House Bill 463 for one legislative day. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have postponed action on House Bill 463 for one legislative day. Members, that completes the orders of the day. Are there any announcements? Member from Montpelier.
Madam Speaker, the Working Vermonters Caucus will meet tomorrow at noon in room 11. It's a big week for labor with May Day coming up on Thursday. There'll be an enormous rally on the State House lawn at 5 o'clock this Thursday, and we'll be joined by Liz Schuler, who's the president of the AFL-CIO nationally. Thanks so much.
Are there any further announcements? Member from Essex Junction.
Madam Speaker, House Democrats will caucus in room 11, 10 minutes after the floor.
Member from Poultney.
Madam Speaker, House Republicans will caucus immediately following the adjournment of the floor in room 10.
Member from Winooski.
Madam Speaker, House Progressives will not caucus today.
Are there any further announcements? Member from Colchester.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Every morning when I wake up, I kind of have a ritual where I make very strong coffee and I look at the Burlington Free Press, and there's only one section that I look at in the Burlington Free Press. It's like what happened on this date in history. And so this morning, when I was reading that section, because I always like to look at, like, was I born then? How old was I then? And how long ago certain events in history took place. What I noticed in this morning's What Happened in History, that in 2004, the World War II Memorial officially opened in Washington, D.C., located at the National Mall. Designed by Frederick St. Florian, the plaza is adorned with columns representing U.S. states and Freedom Wall on the west side. The wall contains 4,048 gold stars. Each star represents honors 100 Americans who died in World War II. I just want to say that tomorrow,
the Vermont House Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs and the Senate Committee on Government Affairs will hold a joint hearing on Veterans Affairs in Vermont. The committee will take testimony on policy issues such as veteran housing, mental health, and family support services. The hearing is at 4 o'clock in room 11.
Are there any further announcements? Member from Cornwall.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a reminder that on Thursday in room 11 from 5 to 7, a panel of immigration law experts will be talking about current issues, both in Vermont and nationally. It's open to all legislators and legislative staff, and we hope we can see you there. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none. Member from Poultney, can you please offer us a motion to adjourn until Wednesday, April 30th at 1 p.m.?
Madam Speaker, I make a motion this body stand in adjournment until Wednesday, April 30th, 2025 at 1 p.m.
You have heard the motion. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and this body stands in adjournment until tomorrow at 1 p.m.